Shalom, everyone. I hope this finds you well. This week's parsha is Vayakhel, and normally in some years it's combined with next week's parsha, which is Pekudei, and we're going to talk about Pekudei next week because this is not a week that the two parshiot are connected, are read together in a double parsha, but it is related to speak about the fact that they are back to back. So Vayakhel means to gather. Vayakhel, like kahal, is like the community, like Kihila, like this, like Kuf Hey Lamed, Kahal is like gathering community, and then Pekudei, Pakad, Pekudei, like it refers to like accounts or specific accounts, like referring to individual people. So Vayakhel is kind of a parsha about the community, the klal, the group, and Pekudei is a parsha about individuals, except that their content is completely swapped. So in this week's parsha that's called Vayakhel, focusing on community, the content is actually focused on individuals. And in Pekudei, which the name means individuals, the content is actually focused on the community. So there are a few reasons for this, and what I'm getting out of just this year of Parshiot learning is just the need for moderation. The idea that there are extreme ways to be. And at my Jewish philosophy club last night, we were talking about this. We were reading something of the Rambam's, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimonides. He's famously known for his 13 principles of faith, the Shlosha Asari Karim, the 13 pillars of Judaism. And throughout these pillars, these 13, there is this theme of not being too extreme. So he has this famous teaching that, there are some people who starve themselves, and there's some people who gorge themselves, and there's some people who do this and some people who do that. There's like this spectrum of existence, and we should really strive to really just be in the center, to do things in a middle way, that there's no need to be extreme. And that's what I kind of see from this example of these two parshiot whose titles mean one thing but whose content means another. And sometimes they're read together, and sometimes they're read separately. And what I get from that is that individuality is important, community is important. The two things should be looked at together and should be thought of in ways together. They can't be these totally divorced concepts, but also they're very important as ideas on their own. That it's the same thing with what Hillel taught. I know my mom probably is thinking this. Rabbi Hillel taught is, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? This idea of like, just if you're going to be so giving and every dollar that you make you give to charity, who's going to feed you? If you keep every dollar for yourself, what kind of person are you? And if you wait ages to do something, what's the point? It's things are going to move on without you, and you have to find this sort of balance, and it's impossible. And that's why our world is so difficult to live in, because we really are. It's so much easier to live in extremes. We have two political parties, and they have become rather polarized, and that's the issue. There's no such thing as a moderate. As a moderate, no one wants to vote for a moderate because their opinions don't encompass enough people. When in fact, most people are moderate in their thinking, but we don't act in such moderate ways. So that's like, it's just been this theme coming up, and I'm trying to work on it in my own life. This idea of moderation, of not these two extremes, and I have a difficult time with it because moderation is hard. And then another idea is the beginning of this parsha. We talk about bringing offerings to the Mishkan, which haven't we talked about that in Tetzaveh, Ki Tisa, and another one that I'm forgetting the name of? We've literally talked about building the Mishkan in the past like 5 or 6 parshiot, and that's kind of annoying. It's a little bit redundant. And again, we always say that the Torah is a divine document. We believe that nothing is incidents. We don't believe that these words are just placed as filler. No, every word has meaning. And what is the reasoning for this sort of redundancy, maybe, of the teachings about the Mishkan? Well, this is an idea taught by the Rebbe, that there's no such thing as a perfect recreation. There's no such thing as a perfect copy, but there is such thing as recreation. And that each of these parshiot, each of these iterations is an example of this, that nothing can be exactly the same. No two people are exactly the same. We are all unique in lots of ways, and if we just look a little deeper, we can find that each of us has very special, unique attributes that help us to, with our own tafkid, our own purpose, our own task to complete on the earth. And so this idea of all these redundant parshiot, it's not redundant. It's teaching us about the importance of recreation and not perfect copies, and that there is value in both things, in every kind of thing, that everything has inherent value because it is on this earth. Nothing is coincidence and nothing is random. It's all divine and meant to be. So that is my idea for this week's Parsha. Please let me know if you have any thoughts about your own connection to moderation or your feelings about community and individuality. Just a little thought about community and individuality while I'm on that note. I think about this a lot in our small community of Alexandria, that every single person counts. When everyone who's on this Zoom right now, everyone who has anything to do with the Jewish community, who pays their dues, who shows up, who participates in the service, who just is there and supportive and is a Jew in a small community, your individuality contributes to this community in such a valuable way. And the community couldn't exist without the individuals. The individuals wouldn't have nearly as much spiritual fulfillment if they weren't in the community. So huge shkoyach, lots of kudos to all of you for being a part of this very small Jewish community, because every person counts, and yet the community is meaningful. The community is more and more meaningful because of each and every one of you. Also, just want to say we can keep everyone in the Ukraine, especially the Jews of Ukraine, in our minds and in our hearts, and that this learning should be done in the merit of everything having a peaceful resolution. Please God, let's not devolve into anything worse than where we are now. Shabbat Shalom. I hope to see you all next week.